So, first of all, I'm very sorry if you're able to hear some cars in the background. I'm having my two windows opened a bit, so I'm very sorry for that. I do hope that it is not that big of a deal. I'm gonna now record, then I'm gonna work out, and then I'm gonna see. And we're gonna today talk about comparing yourself to others. I know, ideally just remember that I'm already having an episode about that, so specifically on why we're doing that and how to cope with that, but still, and I, by the way, think that it is the exact same article that I've also went through in this other episode, but I've also went through just several other articles and things on the other episode, so it's a pretty good one. Maybe I'm actually gonna link it down in the description, but I don't know, and also in the show notes for all the podcast listeners. But yeah, anyway, today, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast, if I haven't said it, because I haven't, I guess. How to stop comparing yourself to others. Break the habit of feeling insecure, envious, and discontented with your life. Comparison is the thief of joy, Theodore Roosevelt. Why do you most frequently compare yourself to? I'm sorry. It's not why, but it is who, but I'm anyway gonna close that shit down because it is a tiny little bit distracting me from reading. So, who do you most frequently compare yourself to? If you're not sure, try this question. Who have you compared yourself to in the last 24 hours? If you're still not sure, think of the last time you checked your Facebook or Instagram feed. Which updates made you feel envious or made you feel as if your life paled in comparison? In turn, did any posts make you feel smug or better than that person? The comparison game or war is as old as humanity. I avoid mindlessly scrolling through social media feeds as much as possible. As part of my work, I speak and write about wellness, resilience, burnout, and mental health. I read the studies that show that time on social media feeds increases depression and envy and decreases well-being. And this motivates me to use social media purposefully, specifically choosing what I will look at and keeping it to a minimum. And I just wanted to point out, of course, I know if you're just following a bunch of people that are seemingly better than you are at whatever, then of course you're going to feel bad about yourself. Of course, even though it still just depends on how you think about it and how you're coping with it and how you deal with it and blah, 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 blah. But of course you're not going to feel that good about yourself. Of course it is going to fuck you. And of course it's not going to be that amazing for you. But on the other hand, yeah, you can purposefully use it to just get information, news, and whatever it might be, so that you just, don't follow those people, to just really avoid those quote-unquote triggers, as they're also going to talk about later on in the article. And, I don't know, I'm just a really not a big fan of demonizing social media or demonizing technology in general. Of course, there is downsides, I do not want to be like, wow, it's the best thing ever and it's only having good sides and whatnot. It is not having that. There's also bad sides, and I clearly have seen that as well. But there's good sides, and we shouldn't really neglect to see them, and we shouldn't demonize things that are or should not be demonized, at least at my point of view. I almost always regret it when I let my guard down and start scrolling. I'll inevitably see something that makes me feel bad about myself or my life, or something else that makes me feel envious. That I'm missing something from my life that others have, something I probably wasn't even thinking of until I saw it. I posted about the comparison trap the other day on Facebook, and a senior citizen posted a comment that made my heart ache. Reading about everyone's vacations kills me, not in my budget ever, and these posts never stop. Not in my budget ever. I've written previously about developing awareness about the impact of your social media posts on others. I stopped posting pictures from my vacations years ago. Share those perhaps with a limited audience, maybe close friends and family who really want to see them. But ask yourself first if they really want to see them. Before you show anything to anyone, review what you know about your life. When's the last time they went on a tropical vacation? Maybe they dream of going to the tropics but have never had and may never have the opportunity. You would be surprised how many people don't actually enjoy pictures of you lounging by a clear blue sea with a coconut drink in your hand. Back to Roosevelt's quote about comparison being the thief of joy. In addition to cultivating awareness with respect to inadvertently and advertently provoking comparison and therefore stealing the joy of others, become a student of how you squander your own contentness by getting sucked into the comparison trap. And I do want to point out that I actually have never thought about that. I do really have to admit, as as bad of a light it actually puts me in, but I've never thought about the fact that, me posting certain things and me showing certain things and maybe looking a specific way on the outside may let other people feel bad about themselves and may let other people feel bad about their life. And it's definitely something that I want to have, because I know what it feels like when you seemingly don't have what others have, because this is also one of the reasons why I'm going through that. I'm using the podcast very often for just, self-development, for myself, and to get some answers and maybe just spend some time on things that I am thinking about. But on the other hand, also share it with other people, because I guess that a lot of people are gonna be able to use that information and maybe have a better life afterwards. And it is something that I'm going for. I don't know if I've achieved it. I do hope that I've been able to achieve that in some way. But on the other hand, I just really don't hope that I've done that, because this says and means that somebody's in a very bad place, and I don't want this for anybody, for nobody. The thing is, when I'm in a bad place, I understand that and I get that, but I often say that, I don't care if I'm in a bad place, but I just don't want anybody else to be in a bad place. And it is kind of the case, but on the other hand, when I'm in a bad place, then it's also not that nice, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, so please think about what you're doing to other people. Think about the others, be a little bit empathetic, and think about the things that you're doing and the things that you're saying. And also how you're saying them, which is something that I really had to think about today. Like, there's many ways in which we can say things, and many ways of saying things that are then leading to hurting somebody, which just doesn't have to be the case. You can also say it in a good way. You can say it in a more empathetic way. And I do think it is a very difficult thing indeed, to communicate certain things in a way that other people are not going to feel bad about themselves and other people are not going to be fucked then. But yeah, here are some tips. Become aware of and avoid your triggers. Start noticing the situations that cause you to play the comparison game. Social media, as I've mentioned, is a big one for most of us. What about other circumstances? Is there a certain person who is consistently bragging about this or that, or asks you questions about your life that are designed to make you feel inferior? Well, I have to say something about that afterwards. Are there certain activities such as strolling through a high-end shopping mall or driving through an expensive neighborhood that frequently make you feel discontent with your life when you were feeling just fine about your life an hour before? Make a list of who and what you frequently envy or compare yourself to. Write how each negatively affects you and why it's actually a waste of your time. Resolve to catch yourself next time. Avoid comparison triggers if you can, especially if the activity or contact doesn't add meaning or any real value to your life. And this is kind of exactly something that I am at that time somehow. I don't really want to say that. Maybe I just don't want to admit it to myself. It's not about just anybody else, but myself. It is something that happens to me right now. Quite. And it is a fucked up thing, and it really does not feel good. But on the other hand, I don't want to say that. And, well, I don't want to give you a question. Isn't that too easy? Isn't it just too easy being like, well, I'm going to avoid my triggers. I'm just not going to meet those people. I'm not going to talk to those people, even though they might be friends or just ex-friends, or they have been friends up to this point. And I am not going to read this book. I'm not going to just show up in that place. Does this really make sense? Does this really make sense to do so? Because I do have a feeling that it does not make sense, because I also thought about that. Should I do this? Should I avoid that? And yeah, should I avoid that? Should I avoid this certain situation and things and people and whatnot? And then I thought, well, actually, it is a good idea. Of course, I'm then going to feel better, probably. But on the other hand, it is like, can't I just learn by really fucking myself how to deal with that? By constantly just actually surrounding myself with that and constantly having that in my mind. Is there a way for me to learn how to admit that and how to deal with that in a way of, just being happy for other people and not giving a fuck about that? And I think it is a good thing. I don't know. It feels better to me in terms of just developing yourself and developing your mind and mental toughness and all of these things. But yeah. The second thing is remind yourself that others' outsides can't be compared to your insides. This is such a helpful habit to cultivate. Unless you're really close to someone, you can't use their outward appearance to judge the reality of their life. People carefully create the social media versions of their lives and do the same with the lives they live out publicly. You may have had the experiences I have of being shocked when a couple that appeared to be happy and solid announced their divorce. Continue to wish others well, of course, but in the event that their life gives you reason to feel bad about yours, remind yourself that you don't actually know what is going on behind closed doors. And I think this is an amazing one. It really is. The third, repeat whenever necessary. Money doesn't buy happiness and never will. It's well established that wealth beyond having the basics in life isn't associated with increased happiness or well-being. I used to perform flamenco dance at an exclusive resort frequented by celebrities and the mega wealthy, and a manager there once told me that she would never seen so many unhappy people in her life. She had never seen so many unhappy. Well, it is insane. Money and things provide temporary boost of joy, yes. Their inevitable inability to provide lasting sustenance is usually more disappointing than anything else. Well, I do actually want to point out, and I think that it's a very well written article since it really talks about both sides of things, because of course, money per se is not going to make you happy, but it is going to make you happy just in the short term. There's going to be a boost of happiness when you buy things, to cope with whatever the fuck you're dealing with. Of course, you're going to feel better, but the next day it's going to be different. For example, the fourth, be grateful for the good in your life and resist any lies that shout it's not enough. If you commit yourself to being deeply grateful for what's good in your life and remind yourself of it daily, you'll be far less vulnerable to comparison and envy. If someone or something triggers that ugly feeling of negative comparison, stop and remind yourself of what is good in your life right now. Because there is so much, and I totally believe that there is so much indeed. Use comparison as motivation to improve what actually matters. This human propensity to want what others have is such a waste of time, unless what you see and covet in others is something of deep worth, such as their generosity or kindness. Who do you admire? What kinds of comparison might actually be healthy for you? For example, there are women I know well who are extraordinarily kind and generous wives, mothers, and friends. They truly make a difference in their worlds, and I want to be more and more like them. Who inspires you to live better in a way that matters most? Spend your precious time and thoughts on this instead. Imagine if you could elevate the comparison game to a useful art form. Stop falling prey to its dark underbelly, which does little more than increase feelings of misery and lack in your life. Use comparison instead to become a better person and maybe even make your little corner of the world a better place. Maybe you're also going to be able to help others, by overcoming that. And I do want to point out yes, and it is something that I also had to think about. I'm comparing myself to another person. I'm comparing myself to other people. So is this entirely a bad thing? No, because it might just show me some things that I should be working on. Whether it is my friendships, whether it is my relationships, whether it is how I am as a person. But, there's a fine line between, okay, I'm gonna just really then work on that and, it's just for motivation and I'm just a jealous piece of shit. I think at least. But I have seen there is quite some articles on envy, and I want to talk about envy. Why it doesn't feel good when someone else succeeds, the poison that is envy, 4 ways to conquer envy, a fun look at envy. I'm gonna do so, I think. I'm gonna read a fun look at envy. Which is not that long, apparently, but I do think how to deal with envy and jealousy. Let's see. Written by Mark Sherman, PhD. Real men don't write blogs. Okay, jealousy. It is a 2014 article. A fun look at envy. Why even envy the late writer of a book about the subject? What? Why I even envy the late writer of a book about the subject? Throughout history, in all stages of cultural development, in most languages, and as members of widely different or differing societies, men recognized a fundamental problem of their existence and have given it specific names. The feeling of envy and being envied, Helmut Schuck, or Schock, whatever. I kind of think that it is Schuck, Helmut Schuck. Envy, a theory of social behavior from 1966. Envy has always been a problem for me. As such, it joins my other problems such as worry, OCD, procrastination, and my concern over eating foods with too much sugar and salt rather than sticking to shredded wheat and carrots. But having all those problems simply increases my envy, since I know that there are people who worry less than I do, who check their door to their house just once when they leave, if that, who do things immediately, and who eat donuts, corned beef, and pastrami without a care in the world. So in a sense, one could say the biggest problem for me is envy. I know I'm not the only one who suffers from this. Certainly not. If Shrek was right when he wrote that it is a fundamental problem of existence and that helps. But then I realized that feeling good about the fact that others suffer is something I'd like to get rid of. And so then I'm envious of those who are less self-centered and thus less envious than I am. But indeed, envy is a common difficulty for people, and one of the reasons I know this is that there are all kinds of sayings that are meant to help us deal with it. For example, there is the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Of course, living in a progressive community as I do, there are two ways to take this expression. The first is the usual, people's lives look better than yours because all we see is the outside and we don't know the problems they have. The second is, zoning should have prohibited that fence, and if their grass really is greener, they are probably using some kind of herbicide that may be getting into my well water. Who do these people think they are? Well, I've actually never thought about the second thing, to really be honest. But anyway, there's also this suggestion. Don't compare your insides to someone else's outsides. Again, the idea is that until you really know someone, you might think they are on the top of the world, when in reality, they have problems too. Yeah, I know, but when someone's outsides are beautiful, like it's a guy who is tall, calm, and handsome, it's hard to believe that his insides are the mess that mine in my less than perfect body are. There is a flip side to being envious, of course, and that is being enviable. That means that people are envying you. At first glance, this seems better. You must be doing better, must be doing pretty well if you know that other people want what you have. But don't fool yourself. Along with enviability comes guilt and fear. If you have something other people want, maybe they will try to take it from you. The biblical saying, blessed are the meek for they shall inherit the earth. But with all these movements and therapists trying to make sure meek people become as unmeek as possible, a more realistic way of looking at people today would have the saying go, blessed are the envious, for they shall make sure the enviable wind up with nothing. To show you how bad the envy thing is for me, I found myself envious of Helmut Schöck, the guy who wrote the book I quote about. In his early 40s, Schöck found his calling. He wrote a book about envy in German, and it wound up being translated into 10 languages. It also became something of a bestseller. Even today on Amazon.com, the English language version ranks number 416,465 in sales. That might not sound so great, but keep in mind that the original book was published in 1966, and the English language version cited in Amazon appeared in 1987. That's 27 years ago. For comparison purposes, the Sprout book, Celebration of the Humble Brussels Sprouts, came out 5.5 years ago, and its sales ranking is lowly 1,278,744. Obviously, people are more interested in envy than in Brussels sprouts, so I have no envy of Tess Rad, who wrote the Sprout book, but as for Schöck, it is a different story. But why should I envy Schöck? Yes, he achieved a certain amount of fame for his book, but he is dead, and he died in 1993. Does it really pay to envy dead people? If I do, why stop with Schöck? Why not envy Mark Twain or even Shakespeare? Also, since I know that when you work on a book, the topic often has at least some relevance to your own life. I would assume that Schöck himself was probably filled with envy. I would imagine that Rad was, for a while, obsessed with Brussels sprouts, but at least there was no reason for her to be envious, except perhaps with those who write books about broccoli. And then there is me. Schöck became famous for his envy work, and Rad wrote the definitive work on Brussels sprouts. And how do I spend my time? Comparing these two people. For those who have ever envied me, think about that. I do dearly hope that nobody's envying me, because you shouldn't. Nobody should. Because there's a lot of fucked up shit going on inside of me, and I don't know. I might be a bit sporty. I might be this. I might be that. I might be whatever. But in the end, nah. In the end, it's just not what it seems to be like. Not to just, I don't know, talk myself down. Like, I don't know, I have achieved some things and I'm proud of some things. But being envious, no, doesn't make sense. But yeah, I'm gonna end the episode there. So I do really dearly hope that I've been able to just share some things that are and or were of importance to you, and we're able to help you out a little tiny bit at least. I do hope that I'm gonna be able to actually sleep a bit more today. It's a 4:15. I'm now gonna work out then, and I do think that I'm gonna go outside, even though I'm not sure. I actually just don't want to. As dumb as it may sound, but I just don't want to. Might also go to the sports field, park, shit, whatever, to work out there, just because I can, I guess. Well, I think I might actually be doing that. Because one of the things that is pissing me off the quote-unquote most when I'm working out at a place where I'm normally working out is that there often is just quite a lot of other people. And I actually want to be alone. I don't know. And with my music, with whatever I'm doing. And on the other hand, on the sports park there, or in the sports park, whatever, or sports fields park, there might also be quite some people, but I don't know. Well, anyway, I wish you the best health of happiness and all success, and also hope that you're gonna find yourself and you're gonna be remembered. This basically means your legacy, and basically means just being a nice person and then being remembered as a nice person, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. 3 other questions that I have for you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change, and what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully gonna show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. Yes. One other thing that I'm having for you is, what could you essentially say to another person that is indeed gonna change their life? Because I totally believe that we all can say something. We all can communicate something that is indeed gonna change somebody's life. If it is a compliment, if it is something even more minor, I don't give a shit. Think about that. Have a nice day, and take care of yourself, your family, and all the people you love, and your friends, and yourself. Bye. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Bye-bye.